Hello. Welcome to ETCSEE 2022. My name is Areti Daradimu. I am the editor of Smart Energy International, and I have with me here Ágnes Horváth, Chief Economist of MOL Group. Hello, and thank you for coming.
Hello, thanks for inviting me.
So, speaking with an economist, immediately I need to ask you about money. I can't help it. So, let's start a little bit discussing gas prices that are skyrocketing and scaring us all. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yes, I have to disappoint you.
Oh,
and
nice.
also maybe the listeners, because as an economist, a high price is a signal that there is a too high demand or too low supply or both. So it means actually that prices will rise as long as we have this supply-demand imbalance. So actually prices are rising because supply cannot grow further in the short term, or even we are afraid that it will decrease further. So prices are rising so that demand should adjust. We should lower our consumption, both as a citizen and also the industry and the economy as a whole.
Yeah, that's a bit easier said than done, but truth be told, the European Commission also asked that. And many ministers from the various European countries, they said that even the citizen individually can do something by, lowering the demand in energy. However, this is easy to say when it is summer. And we're all in a very nice weather, or more or less nice weather. In the winter, when cold will come and some temperatures will probably reach sub-zero, what are we going to do there then?
Actually, I want to tell you also that summers are getting more and more problematic because of the cooling demand. So you have heating demand in the winter, but if we want to wear a jacket in a room when outside we have above 30 temperatures, then cooling demand is also a big issue. We have seen that in California, in India, already this summer. But you are right that we are even more worried to freeze during the winter. And what I want to say is that there are actually two scenarios. It is, I think Harry Truman is a very famous American president who was asking for a one-handed economist, because economists always say on the one hand this happens, on the other hand that happens. And this is exactly the problem now, because I cannot give you a firm answer. There are really two scenarios. One is that we can prepare for the winter. This means that we can fill up the winter storages and there are no main disruptions or unplanned disruptions in the gas flows towards Europe, and we get access to the additional LNG supply that is needed to reduce the Russian dependency. But the other scenario is that if we don't get access to enough additional LNG, and if there is any disruption on the pipeline system that is coming from east to the west, then we will not be prepared, and then of course we will see a problem. So there are two very distinct scenarios. In one case, at the moment, we are more optimistic, so the probability is higher given to the first scenario, that it seems that storages are filling up at record pace and we are on the right track to be prepared for the winter. But of course, there is always the emergency scenario or that something happens, especially if you have a war in one of the next to the EU border, and where pipeline systems are crossing. So it's a big question. Still, we have to worry for a few more months before we can say what will happen.
Okay, but how realistic is it to say that we can easily recover from cutting the supply from Russia?
I think the European member countries are in a very different situation. So Western countries and those countries which are next to the sea, so they have access to LNG, and also those which have access to alternative pipelines, for example, for North Africa or Norway, they are in a better position, and they are in a much easier. It's probably much easier for them to replace Russian gas. And then there are countries, especially in the Central and Eastern European region and the Baltic countries and even Northern Europe, where it can be a problem because you don't have sufficient alternative supply sources which can which can reach the country in case of a shutdown of these flows.
Well, Russia already shut down the gas in Bulgaria, in Poland. I think Finland is also right, if I'm not mistaken. So if this continues, and we're talking about a shutdown, not just lower volumes, are we facing a hellish scenario?
As I said, the hellish scenario is always there as one of the options. At the moment, I think we are not counting on that with the greatest probability. I think it is, again, very important that these countries, at least for the moment, were, let's say, not, let's say, voluntarily giving up or getting rid of this Russian gas. Voluntary in the sense that Russia forced European clients and customers to pay in rubles. And they have the option to pay in rubles and probably then get access to gas as well. But they decided to keep the original contracts, which haven't been modified, only verbally. And the fact that they decided not to pay in rubles was probably triggering this decision on Russia to react or counter, to take countermeasures. So at the moment, those countries that are more, let's say, flexible from this point of view, or let's say more dependent on these Russian energy supplies, and they are forced to accept these additional conditions, these countries can expect for the moment to continuous supply, let's say.
Okay. And I would like to ask you one last question. And I would like you to predict a little bit. I know it's not, you know, the job of being the oracle is not an easy one, but we always ask that of economists to predict a little bit the future and what can we expect in the months to come, going further into the winter with prices, in prices, yeah.
Okay, I think prices have increased continuously. What we see is that prices cannot go back to what we have seen, let's say, before the middle of 2021, or what we have seen over the last 15 years. So it's, they cannot go back because, however uncomfortable, Russian supplies are cheaper than LNG, simply because there is a different cost element in these products. So LNG needs to be, so LNG means that you need to cool down to very, very low temperatures the natural gas to liquefy it from gas to liquefaction, and then actually you need to regasify it, and then you have to heat up. So it's a very energy intensive, it's not that green from, so actually turning to this option or having more LNG is not good for the Green Deal and the net zero emission goals, but still it's a very energy intensive product, and for this it is more expensive. So the average natural gas price needs to be higher, even if we would have a normal circumstances and no supply fears. So this would mean that prices should be higher than what we have seen over the last 15 years. And then how much higher, it depends on how much, whether the supply gets scarce or not. So if, as I said, there are two scenarios. If we are prepared for the winter, then we can even see prices between 50 and 70, which is actually a relief compared to the above 100 and 150 price range, price levels. But of course, it's painful because we had half of that before. Before. But if there is a supply scarcity, then as we have seen, prices can shoot up to unprecedented levels. So I think none of us believe that we can function with such high price levels so long.
Okay, let's hope that the optimistic views of the European Commission will come true. Let's hope that the best case scenario will prevail. But in the meantime, let's prepare for the worst also, right?
Exactly, we need to prepare for the worst. We don't want to freeze.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Ágnes.
You're welcome.
And thank you for watching us.